Yeah, to be fair, this was only a suggestion. It's not like they ever got as far as to actually find a game. It's like, oh, we could do this, but they said no. It's very likely that either A, Nintendo had already given the DK license to pay on and thus wasn't willing to lend it back, or it could also be that Nintendo didn't have that much faith in Rareware, and although this may sound a bit mean, you can kind of understand why, considering two factors. One, Rareware were kind of sold off to, a rival company and everything, and and the second thing is, well, okay, admittedly I haven't played most of the games after Donkey Kong on 64, but it's not like they were setting the world on fire. Good lord, the Donkey Kong Country ports of the Game Boy Advance weren't all that special, I'll be honest, but although, in all fairness, they couldn't really help that either, since they had to basically remake the games from scratch, and this is true, to get back some of their old backgrounds for the levels and some of the old sprites, they had to use emulators.
Oh my god!
Yes, they literally had to rip sprites from their own game because they lost the originals.
That is just sad.
Yeah, so you can kind of understand why the port of Donkey Kong Country kind of went downhill in that light. But yeah, even so, this is an issue which admittedly I'm kind of torn on, because on the one hand, it would have been interesting to have Donkey Kong Country 4 again, just to keep the series alive for a little bit longer, and well, just to see where Rare would have taken it, but on the other hand, the cynical part of me thinks that even if they did release it, I'm tempted to say it probably would have been the weakest out of the 4 games. I don't know why, it's just... Maybe it's just me being cynical and jaded after everything that's happened, but just judging from the direction Rare has been going in the past few years, I just don't think it would have been anything to the standard of the original games. I don't know.
Well,
maybe I'm just being a nostalgic, cynical old bastard that I normally hate, but... I don't know, it's just kind of hard to think that way.
Yeah, well, I do see where you're coming from. Donkey Kong Country 1 was great, Donkey Kong Country 2 was a zenith of game creation, and then Donkey Kong Country 3 started to slide.
Yeah, well...
It was still a good game, but it kind of started to slide about then for Rareware.
Oh yeah, Donkey Kong Country 3, it took a shift in direction, and it was focusing more on humor, which I think also may have been the reason why, ultimately, the grand 103% ending didn't quite work. It was because they were so focused on humor, it just wasn't satisfying. Donkey Kong 64 was okay, it's just, again, a little bit too cartoonish, and the fact that the overworld was a bit too big, because they were trying to go bigger and better than everything else. I wouldn't mind the comedic overtone as much, it's just, it felt like they weren't taking anything seriously. And I don't mean in kind of the charming way, I mean it in a way that kind of felt really irritating. I think that's part of the reason why Donkey Kong 64 grates on me a little bit. It's just like, kind of like they weren't treating the whole story or the characters seriously. It was just,
Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
But then again, it's always dangerous to, think about the future and wave around the what could have been card, because, well, the blunt fact is, it didn't happen, so we don't know. For we know, Rareware could have taken a look at themselves thinking, we need to get serious here, and actually made a game that surpassed all expectations and created a religion. Who knows? Anything could have happened.
I love how you just throw that in at the end, created a religion.
Well, you could argue many games have done that, but I should digress. The point... And in fairness, you could use the whole what could have been card in almost every single DK game that come out. Like, what would have happened if Payon made a sequel to Jungle Climber? What would have happened if Metro were allowed to make the complex plot they were originally planning to for Donkey Kong Country Returns before Nintendo told them to focus on co-op? And no, I'm not bitter. Why do you ask? Yeah, that's my 2 cents on the matter. It's a disappointment, although I'm not sure if we missed anything. That's...
Yeah. And it's in the past, Payon has taken over and so is Retro, so we may as well just leave it.
Yeah, best to move on and not wonder about what could have been. But anyway, I've been taking up a bit too much of this section, so, Sven, anything you want to talk about?
Oh, hell yes! So, once again, I'm put in the unfortunate position of apologizing as a whole for my country, because now our so-called leaders have decided to do something that I doubt anyone actually thought would literally happen. They're actually proposing a bill to destroy the internet. Well, they don't word it like that, but that's basically what it would do. I'm talking, of course, about the Stop Online Piracy Act. Basically, a bill that would give, I don't know who it is exactly, the government or the copyright holders, the power to completely disembowel any site they see that might be infringing on copyright. Which also gives them an excuse to take down any site that they just happen not to like.
Yeah, I think from what I've read of it, I'm not big in American politics, so I may be skipping on a few details, but from what I've heard, it's basically corporations that are proposing the bill, and it's basically giving them powers to speed up the political process, because I think their argument is that as it currently stands, we have to go through all of these human rights issues, and therefore we can't just throw the people who steal our copyrighted stuff into jail, and therefore we can't take these sites down, or...
Yeah, you mentioned the whole human rights issue, and in this case, the one human rights issue that they're trying to bypass and pretty much circumvent is that little human rights issue of, freedom!
Yeah, that is true. I think it's basically the entire bill is trying, from what I understand, it's basically trying to bypass all the jurisdiction you would have to go through to do this otherwise. These sensible jurisdictions that's supposed to prevent stuff like this.
Yeah, the jurisdiction like, I don't know, fair trial in a court of law, political due process, legal due process, generally basic human logic. Basically circumvents all that for the sake of money.
Yeah, pretty much. And these bills always make me laugh because they never make any sense half the time. I mean, okay, yeah, there is an issue with piracy. You can't get movies online for free, and that's not right in any sense of the matter. But that said, there are many people who are using this site to promote their work, and just in the past few months, I bought several songs from Ailstorm with Intonation, and I wouldn't buy them normally because I don't listen to music on the radio, and I don't go out buying random CDs based on the off chance. I listen to songs on YouTube to see whether I like them first, then buy them for YouTube listening.
Yeah, and this bill pretty much taking out the middleman by just pretty much destroying you.
Yeah, pretty much. I understand protecting your copyright. Okay, I see that. There should be a law that stops people from uploading entire episodes, but it's getting to the point where they're trying to say that even you so much as say having a thumb song in the back of a wedding video will get you thrown off.
Yeah, and it's not so much that, but in the most extreme case, and trust me, given the fact that we have a presidential election coming up, this could actually happen, given who gets into office, because some of these people are absolute yahoos. There is actually a distinct possibility of, let's say, one site happens to accidentally upload a video that accidentally has copyright in it. That entire site could get taken down for that video.
Oh my gosh.
It could be used like that because the bill is that vague.
I think that's the reason why SOPA's so terrified at the moment. It's not just the fact that it's basically putting more restrictions on the internet. It's the fact that it's so vague, people can basically just use it to come up with any punishments or just take down anyone that looks them funny, basically.
It was actually a politician, surprisingly, who made this comparison. He said, and I'm quoting one of the people who wrote one of the petitions to stop this thing, Senator Ron Wyden, Democrat from Oregon, analogized it as such. It's using a bunker buster bomb to take out a problem that needs to be solved with a precision laser. But I like to go a bit bigger than that. It's basically removing inflamed tonsils with a fucking ICBM missile.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to describe it. It's just, there are piracy things that needs to be cracked down. It's just so unbelievably extreme. I mean, a bill like this would only be necessary if copyright was running rampant. Instead, it's not. I have 2 copyright issues against my name for putting things up. Okay. Whenever I've stepped across the line in terms of copyright, I have been struck down and been forced to take down my videos, and it's the same with so many other people.
Yeah, and even if it was a problem, I'd like to ask something here. Record companies, you make billions of dollars every single year. Are you really going to get your underwear in a knot because someone downloaded a P. Diddy song and lost you 99 cents?
Yeah, it's... It's just silly. I mean, some people have described it as the you play it our way or get out of the sandbox attitude.
Yeah, and in this case, the sandbox, well, frankly, there's not much of a sandbox left after this passes.
Yeah, that's the thing. What's even more slightly intimidating is that, okay, admittedly I haven't seen all the legality, but apparently part of the SOPA bill is trying to extend the international reach. So basically, even if I'm in Britain, I could potentially be taken down by...
Yeah, and I'll tell you why that is. Most of the internet is hubbed in America. So everyone around the world will be affected if some American company decides to take down a website. It won't just be unavailable to us, it will be available to the rest of the freaking planet.
Yeah.
You're looking at a bill designed in the same country that decided the Iraq War was a good idea, and that the US Patriot Act was a good idea.
Well, in all fairness, I'm speaking from a country that supported you 100% of the way, and the leader still insists it's a good idea even now, so I've no comment.
Yeah,
and actually, speaking of which, this is another thing that I don't think everyone quite realizes about SOPA. We in Britain actually had a similar thing like this passed. It's something like the Digital Economy Bill. It was actually passed during the election. The reason why it's not actually happened yet is that it's in the political equivalent of purgatory hell at the moment. It's passed, but no one can work it properly.
And thank God for you, poor sods, because if you had a SOPA, you'd all be screwed.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's the thing. I don't think anyone's put any thought into how the bloody hell SOPA's supposed to work.
Yeah, and given the general IQ level of all the politicians running for president, I doubt anyone ever will.
For those of you basically now carried under the desk and quietly sobbing and hoping it will go away, don't despair just yet. It's not like there's absolutely no opposition to this bill.
Oh yeah, trust me, there is crushing opposition to this bill, and I mean even in the political circle where this shit all started.
Yeah, in terms of companies, there are loads of big companies like Facebook and Google who, well, you know, don't want their businesses crumbling.
Yeah, they don't want their businesses absolutely crushed because someone decided to gut the internet.
Yeah, so they're constantly fighting back on the economic side. As Sven said, there are loads of American politicians planning to stand up to it, and in fact, I heard Obama once said he will veto it if it passes, and actually you said there was one American politician that was particularly interesting.
Oh yeah, I brought up Senator Ron Wyden. He's threatening to filibuster this if it ever gets to a vote by reading out the millions upon millions of names signed on one petition against the bill. Basically, he is threatening to filibuster for weeks on end. Just to end the bill.
So yeah, we definitely have a lot of creative support on that side, and if you want to throw your support in us, there are plenty of petitions out there, and even one for international users. I'm trying to remember which one I signed, but there is. You can click on the links provided in the description by Sven the Crusader if you want to sign your name against this, and hopefully we can then try and stop this bill before it gets out.
Yeah, and just to provide some people a hope spot, you know, after my massive cynical rant there, this has got to be one of the only issues on which I have ever seen in my politically vested life that could ever bring a gay Democrat from Colorado and a Mormon super conservative Republican from Utah together against one thing.
Wow, that's just...
They're two of the most vocal opponents of the bill, too, so, yeah.
Wow, that is...
And I swear, there's a perennial candidate running for President of the United States. Almost everyone knows his name. Ron Paul. And he's basically gaining momentum by being the anti-SOPA candidate.
Yeah, I have to say, that is...
So, there's some faith in humanity left in me because of those.